Recording. Good morning and welcome to What's Up, Amanda. It is 5:46 a.m. Pacific, 7:46 Louisiana time. I don't know what time zone that actually is.
Central time.
Well, from here on out,
standard.
It's Louisiana time, as far as I'm concerned.
According to Louisiana, any time is Louisiana time. It's sort of like Texans, Yeah.
Right.
How are you?
I am just fine. Up bright and early. We have a podcast scheduled with somebody in Hong Kong who is, I don't know, maybe forgot what time it was, but we'll just stay open for a while and
it's
record ourselves
tomorrow
speaking.
there. So we could be completely off with him. So who knows?
Yeah.
We'll see.
Oh, well, you know what? There's not a lot going on. So James, if we missed you, no worries. We'll catch you another time.
That's right.
We've got lots of it.
Catch you on the flip side, James.
Yeah, we were going to talk with James Neidlinger of 5 Ring System. He's a very cool guy. In fact, I would like to read something he put on Facebook yesterday that just cracks me up. He's a breath of fresh air. Oh, I got to find it. Never mind. I'll look for it. I'll find it later. But he's just like, he's really into not being too restrictive with your eating and beating yourself up while you're in quarantine. And, he doesn't like these people who are posting things like, you should be on the alkaline diet while you're in quarantine because, your blood and stuff. He just is like, that's bullshit. Don't do it.
I have to agree, James.
Me too.
Yeah.
I fully agree. Yeah.
I don't believe in going completely off the rails either, though.
No. But if I want some gummy bears or some M&Ms or
heck yeah,
a little whiskey at night, no one's going to stop me.
That's right. Damn it. Jeez.
Yeah.
So how long do you have here, Amy, to do this? How long before you have to leave?
Oh, I don't have to leave till about an hour and a half, but I have a few things I have to do before I leave. So I can speak until 6:30 Oregon time, which would be 8:30 Louisiana time.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, what shall we talk about? Let's see. Anything interesting this week?
Yes, there has been a lot interesting. As most of you may or may not know, my primary source of making a living is working in my family's Ford dealership. We're small, but we employ about 40 people when we're fully employing people. And because of what's going on in the world, we have had some layoffs. And so I've been desperately trying to get one of the PPP loans through the Small Business Association. And it's been quite the adventure. I've gone from excited to just frustrated to just depressed to, it is what it is. We'll get it or we won't, because I'm in the same boat as everybody else. And I think what I've learned is so our bank is a big bank. They don't have access to the SBA loans like small community banks.
Uh-huh.
So I don't necessarily know that a small community bank is the perfect fit, but it may serve businesses well to have a relationship with a small community bank as well as a big bank, depending on what you need. So I think a lot of us are going to be looking at that as we move forward from this.
Right. I agree. I use a small community bank here where I live, and I have this is where my grandparents lived. I grew up in Montana, but my grandfather set up an account for me and my brother and my cousin at this little community bank that his best friend started years ago. And cool. I've done my banking with them since I was like 10 years old. And they're wonderful. I mean, there's some things they can't do on a grander scale, because they are so small. But I mean, they'll bend over backwards for you. And that's the difference,
That is.
Yeah.
You get that personal. So at our bank, and I'm not going to say which bank it is, but we do have a great branch that gives us a lot of wonderful personal attention. But they just aren't set up to, they weren't streamlined to take the applications for the SBA loans. Whereas a small community bank, that's sort of their niche. And
Right.
But these events that happen kind of, it will create changes. So maybe big picture for everyone, there'll be easier access. Because really what it comes down to, I think, when you're in trouble in your business, it's cash flow. You have to just be focused on getting cash flow, because it's not just paying your employees, paying your rent. We have a lot of inventory. We have to pay the flooring costs, is the interest that we're paying on the loans that we're taking out to. It's just, that's a simple way to explain it. That's a lot of cash that has to go out every month. You have your rent, you have your utilities. They're massive. I mean, when you light up a car lot at night, even though we've switched to all LEDs, it's a big utility bill.
Yeah.
So that cash flow becomes very important. So I definitely will be looking at, in the future, making sure that I have easy access to quick cash if I need it.
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, my gym, not as huge a scale as your business, obviously, but
we're small people. We're not big. We're not a big car dealership.
Way bigger than me, though. It is business wise. And I was able to suspend all of our utilities until June, which is great. Good. Because it's just like a few less bills we have to pay, So, and we're not there using it. No one's there. So you guys are still operating. So you have to have those things, we're like, we don't need our internet. We don't need our gas, I mean, it's about to be so hot here anyway. We're not going to need that for a long time. And, we don't need our water drop off anymore. We don't, just different things, so
right.
Suspended it just until then, just to hopefully we'll be back by then,
Yeah, we're lucky that our shops have remained, I'm not going to say super busy, but busy enough. It keeps those employees working. At some point, though, if a car dealership isn't selling cars, I mean, it's like, that's the way you generate your cash. And that's, I hope, in Oregon, they did not close down the sales side. I think some big dealerships may have. We're able to stay open because we're small. We laid off some sales people, but the guys that are there are able to, we're socially distancing. We're doing a lot of it remote. Kind of quickly changed how we do that. So it's cool. You just have to look at what you're doing and try to be nimble and try to make changes to get through. And
right.
Hi, Kitty.
I can hear Homer with his squeaky toy, and then I've got mine here like howling at me. It's like, gosh, go away, all of you.
It's pretty low budget podcast, people. It's no Joe Rogan. Sorry.
He's our next guest.
Yes.
Joe Rogan. I feel certain he's going to say yes. Just a feeling,
Have you heard from Mark Wahlberg?
Not yet. I'm still waiting. I mean, he's done a couple of my challenges, my exercise challenges, but that's kind of harmless. He doesn't really have to communicate with me.
Yeah. I think I'll name this episode, Mark Wahlberg, Where Are You?
That's a good idea. I mean, somehow, because I'm pretty sure, on his social media, probably he's not even looking at that. That's managed by, his admin or whoever. Yeah. And that person puts out content of what he's doing with his family during the shut-in. But if you did that, there's a million different ways we could try to get to him.
Hey, James just wanted to be let in. Okay, let's let him in. But we're recording, so it'll be weird. Ooh, look how dapper he is. Oh, wait, that was just his phone. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, good evening for me, but good morning for you.
Yeah.
How goes it?
Hello.
We're great. We're recording, too. We've been talking, so we thought we'd just record our conversation while we waited.
Excellent. I highly encourage it. It's funny, I've been using Zoom for a really long time now. Since at least 2009, I think, when it started. Whenever it started being a thing, I started using it, and I've been kind of coaching clients that way for a super long time. I've done a few webinars, and it's funny to see people kind of start to really use it now, because the technology's been there for a bit, but a lot of people have been stuck on Skype or something like that. 2 seconds. You're gonna lose me for a second, but I'm still here. I just
Okay.
have to
Okay.
get to another thing and kill something. There we go. To be fair, I was watching cartoons. So how
So what
goes
time
it?
is it there?
It is just about 9 o'clock. Just
Okay.
about 9 o'clock.
On a
Which means that
Saturday
it's time
night.
for my evening cigar and whiskey. It's Friday
Good.
for me, actually.
Oh, it's Friday. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, we're 15 hours ahead of the West Coast.
Gotcha. Well, James, I'm going to do a quick little intro because we do cyber
Yeah.
talk a little, and actually, I know you a little. I know you. So, James Neidlinger, welcome of 5 Ring Systems, and the philosophy behind 5 Rings is simple, sustainable, realistic tools, tactics, and training for a life less fragile. The 5 Rings of Fitness are breath, posture, strength, speed, and stamina. James offers online training in martial arts, kettlebells, barbell training, Indian clubs and mace and gata, and more, which we're going to get into. He is an extremely fun and cool dude. I have taken one of his online classes teaching snake patterns using Indian clubs, and it was awesome. I'm not sure if he remembers, but I met you at one of John Auden and Kelly Manzone's Makes Gata courses in Seattle. That was about a year ago, a little more than a year ago. Yeah.
It was super fun.
And it was really fun. And he's knowledgeable, funny, and definitely speaks his mind. I find him to be one of the freshest breaths of air on the internet. Amanda dropped something, I think. And we're delighted to have him. So I'm going to just read something I read that you wrote yesterday, that what I mean by that.
No.
And I just love your posts. So here it is. It's off of Facebook. James, maybe the biggest problem with advice being given by fitness dorks regarding nutrition is that supplies are either prohibitively expensive for most people, even in the best of times, or just not available. Eat the donut. Try to eat some vegetables too. But if the only supplies you can get are canned foods or boxed meals, you should eat those. A lot of people are recommending alkaline diets, which are frankly pure unmitigated bullshit. The diet isn't bad, but if the stated reasons for it and the idea that you can alter your body's pH balance is complete shit, relax, eat the donut. I love it. And it's true. We agree.
We agree.
Yeah, my wife's a veterinary surgeon, and that's what we're here in Hong Kong for. Is she's got a really awesome job here, and we're here for 2 years. But the benefit of having a surgeon for a wife is that, mammalian physiology doesn't change. So, like, mammals are mammals, and she keeps me honest. And I can also ask her a question and get an honest answer regarding physiology, anatomy, how the systems work, down to a really micro level. So yeah, the idea of being able to change your pH balance just bothers me.
Yeah.
It's, part of it is that like I said in the post, I apologize. I probably got a dog hair on my eyelid right now. Here, Stony, come here. Up, come up here. Come up.
Hey.
This is Stony. He's our fluffy border collie. He lives with us. He loves us. He loves everyone. Oh, good boy. All right, get down. But I'm probably covered in his hair. So, like, the idea that you're gonna, in the middle of a pandemic where everybody is locked in their houses and we're not supposed to leave our houses much, and the food supply lines are kind of interrupted a little bit, not completely shut off, but they're challenged, we'll say. You may not be getting fresh vegetables. You may not be getting fresh food anywhere. It might be just canned and whatever's on the store shelves. And I've been homeless. I've eaten out of garbage cans. I've been pretty bummed out and low, and food is awesome, no matter where it comes from. Quality is a really subjective term. And are you guys familiar with Mike T. Nelson?
No.
No.
Awesome. Maybe you can get him on.
Write them down.
He is a pretty
Gonna
sharp
do
guy.
that.
He was a PhD out of Minnesota, and I think he's teaching still, actively teaching in Minnesota uh, for some. I can't remember what he's teaching, so I'm not going to say it because I don't want to say it wrong. But I've paid attention to him for a long time because of some research he did on metabolic flexibility. And it's the idea that you can use fat or fuel as a source for, I'm sorry, fat or sugar, rather, as a source of fuel for your body. And the cool thing was, he's like, look, eat whatever you want, but it's goal dependent. So if you're doing high intensity exercise, you probably need more carbs. If you're doing, you know, slower kind of strength related stuff, you probably need more fat, honestly, and protein. And being able to flip that switch between fat as a fuel source or sugar as a fuel source is a marker of better health. Like your ability to change randomly, it just means you're generally in better condition. And that flexibility idea really hit home once for me when I went to a movie with my ex-wife, and it was the movie Haywire. It's my thing. I get a cherry Coke and a popcorn, right? So at the time, I'd been on this kick of only whole, home cooked, grown within 50 miles of my house food. And we were privileged enough at the time to be able to afford that. We had the access to resources, and I was all in, right? So I'd been doing that for about 3-4 months, and I felt really good. I was in good shape, yada, yada. Go to the movies, cherry Coke, popcorn, go sit down, get about half the cherry Coke, cold sweats, feel like I'm gonna vomit, and shaking violently. So we leave, and I get home, and it's just disaster pants. I'm in the shower, like curled up in a ball, shaking. My wife thinks I got to go to the hospital. And I finally come down a little bit and realize that what had happened was I had a bad reaction to the cherry Coke. So what would you tell somebody if that happened to them?
What would you say to do?
Yeah, what advice would you, like, where would you go with that?
I
To
think
get
most
them
people
out.
would say, don't drink cherry Coke.
Yeah.
Right.
Or do you
Right.
mean to get them out of that situation they're currently in?
No, just like that happens to you when you drink cherry Coke. So basically most people will say, don't drink cherry Coke.
Don't drink that. Yeah.
My answer was drink cherry Coke more often. So it's like a Princess Bride moment, right? I'm going to inoculate myself to the stress, and I'm going to take a little bit of ibogaine powder, and I'm going to try not to say inconceivable too much, and maybe keep my hair, right? And a lot of the fitness world would argue with me on that. But here we are in a spot where you don't have access to fresh food. You're likely eating things out of cans, out of boxes, or dehydrated or whatever. It's processed, likely highly processed. And if that's the only thing available to you, then that's how you get nutrition. And anything that gets you through to the next day is good.
Mm-hmm.
And I put no qualifiers on that. If a shot of heroin keeps you going for the day and you don't die, that's what you need. You can't just cut people off or drastically change their lives without some negative impact. So if the stress of something is higher than the stress of not doing that, fine. Just don't do it. Don't
No, and
change. Keep doing it.
I think that makes a lot of sense. And I think my experience training people is very limited. It's not what I do full time, but it's something I've done, and studied. And and it just seems like, as more of an observer, really, that there's a lot of quick fixes, and hey, I've even had done a lot of these myself. I think sometimes there's a place for them, but the 12-week program, they can be
Sure.
awesome. But then after 12 weeks, you sort of just slip back into what you've always been doing. And then it was like, well, what if I had spent that 12 weeks just making 1 or 2 changes to just make me a tiny bit better, with the idea that I'm going to go from eating all junk food to, like you say, just getting in a few vegetables. And, so
Yeah. If if your pizza has broccoli on it, is that healthy?
Sure.
Like, does that make it a healthy pizza? But why isn't it healthy if it's a pizza? I love pizza. Pizza's awesome.
Yeah.
Do you guys know who Peter Baker is?
No.
He
Here's
wrote
another name to write down.
He's a really sharp guy. He's actually there in Washington. I think he's still living in Gig Harbor. No, I'm sorry, not Gig Harbor. Bremerton. I think he's living in Bremerton.
Oh.
He's a really sharp cat, and he was living in Florida. He kind of made a name for himself by being a little more open about certain aspects of his life than other people were. And he wound up writing a book with, gosh, what the heck's his name? It's not Lane Norton. Oh man, it's a total brain fart. I can't think of the guy's name. Anyway, wrote a book with another gentleman. You'll find it easy if you look for it. And it was about bodybuilding, basically. And one of my favorite quotes from him was, "You can eat a donut, just don't face fuck an entire plate every day." It's just like this. It's a horrific image, right? Just doing terrible things to a plate of donuts, but it gets the message across. And yeah, if you're eating an entire plate of donuts every day, that may not be the healthiest thing. If that's your only nutrition, eventually you're gonna hit diminishing returns. But donuts are awesome, and there's some really good donut shops in Oregon, in Seattle, and I was living in Tacoma. There were really good donuts there. Like here, I'm in Hong Kong. I can't find a good donut. I would do so many horrible things for a good donut right now.
Can you find a malasada there? Amanda and I discovered malasadas in Hawaii just a few months ago, and I'd never had a malasada in my life. And now
What
it's
is a malasada?
It's a Filipino donut that is filled with delicious creams and jellies and just whatever.
Now I gotta find one.
And they're fresh and fluffy, and they come out hot and huge.
Powdered sugar.
Awesome.
Powdered
So
sugar.
good.
Oh, they're so good.
I don't like donuts, but I liked those.
Mm.
Just an instant insulin coma.
Oh my God.
Yes. I got home and I was like, oh my God, that belly. The malasadas.
That's funny.
After a giant plate of the loco moco, which is a huge plate of rice with a burger patty and an egg and gravy, and then you have a malasada to top it off, and that's just breakfast.
So I miss plate lunch. Plate lunch is awesome.
Yeah.
You get that clump of ahi and then some rice and some mac salad and see, you're making me hungry. I've got dinner waiting for me. I'm just waiting for my wife to get home. She'll probably walk in behind me sometime. But yeah, I don't want to hijack this and make it all about nutrition. But yeah, I get frustrated by our industry sometimes, and I am not known for my tact or my or keeping my mouth closed when I perceive something to be off. It's gotten me in trouble in some cases and kind of maybe limited my business opportunities, but I feel fine about it. I'm super okay with it.
Good. Well, tell us about 5-ring systems and what it is, and I know you're doing a lot of online training, so and please tell us and people how to reach out to you if they're interested in contacting you.
Yeah, so best way to get a hold of me is just getstrongstaystrong @gmail.com. That's it. That's the easiest way to get a hold of me. And it's easy to remember. It's just get strong, stay strong. And it's part of my credo. Get strong, stay strong, move towards better every day. Have fun, don't break, don't quit. That's it. Whatever that means for you. And I started in 2009 training people professionally after taking an RKC certification. And in retrospect, maybe I wasn't ready to train people. But I paid $2,300 for that weekend, and I got my ass kicked, and they told me I was amazing afterwards. So I was pretty sure I was good for it. Uh, and then I assisted a few times and like really fell down the rabbit hole of corrective exercise. And in building my business, I decided to call it 5 Rings Fitness, right? 5 Rings Fitness. And my wife at the time was like, well, what's your 5 rings? You know, gotta just really gotta make me do something. My ex-wife was amazing. She was an amazing person. We split amicably. Everything was fine. But the 5 rings of fitness are breath, posture, strength, speed, and stamina. And I borrowed from, Musashi's Book of 5 Rings. If you've never gone through it, it's worth a read. There's some good kind of philosophy things in there that I think can be applied to more than just interpersonal human conflict or fitness or whatever. It's been applied to all kinds of stuff. And then I continued the idea with 5 ring systems. So I've got a combatives aspect, right? I teach Filipino martial arts, Chukundo, and Legion Fan Gung Fu. I am a now Guru level 5 under Guru Dan Inasano in Filipino martial arts and Chukundo. He was Bruce Lee's best friend, training partner, took over for him when he died, inherited the system, and then continued developing it after that. And he's also a Filipino American that teaches a blend of Filipino martial arts that comprises all kinds of stuff, weapons and empty hands and wrestling and what have you. It's really fun. It's really good for your brain. So I've got corrective exercise, I've got combatives, and then I've got the Z Health stuff. I don't know if you've looked into Z Health at all, but that targeted mobility where we're using joint mobility exercises to target the brain and improve performance, whether it's your athleticism or your flexibility or mobility or whatever it is. There's some button in there that you can push that will let you perform better. And that's a cool idea. So combatives, corrective exercise, and then targeting the nervous system. And then I also really, really like club work. Like if you know anything about me, you know I like Indian clubs. So that whole gymnastics with light apparatus idea, mostly brought to the market by Ed Thomas. Dr. Ed Thomas was a super influential person in my life. I got to meet him in 2010, I think. The weekend before the first Dragon Door Certified Indian Club Specialist course, Dr. Thomas came to Minneapolis and basically taught that course to a bunch of delinquent kids in the Police Athletic League program in North Minneapolis in 2 hours. So he gave us the presentation, he did the whole PowerPoint thing, the lecture, all of it. He also taught them how to use dumbbells, medicine balls, ropes, ladders. Like he just gave us all this information really fast. And some people picked it up and ran with it, and some of the kids didn't. Whatever. Made an impression on me. And then he came and did the CICS, and that was awesome. It's really cool. Kept interacting with him for a few years. Went down to Iowa a couple of times to both see him present and teach, and also to help him teach other things. Went out to Philly once to teach a course with his group out there. That was a lot of fun. And the idea that you had the medical, the martial, and the pedagogical in gymnastics really appealed to me, because it was this holistic system of work that could adapt to any individual and was also something that you could put to work, helping you get better at any skill you wanted to get better at. The fundamentals of gymnastics have not changed since the beginning of time. The fundamentals of punching people hasn't changed, and the fundamentals of healing them hasn't changed. So out of that gymnastics tradition, that Dr. Thomas was educated in, which was the Turner traditions, Turnvereins, and was kind of popularized and brought to the United States by a guy named Friedrich Jahn way, way back when. It's kind of the godfather of, or grandfather of modern gymnastics. He brought that idea and training methodology to the United States. But his influence in Europe continued after he had left. And it went through like Niels Posey and Pilates, and it just spawned all of these different things. And as time went on, they separated out where the martial went strictly to the military. The medical went strictly to physical therapists and massage therapists. And the pedagogical went straight to physical education for children in primary school. And at the time, you were looking at the Prussian military model of education. So maybe not quite the way we do it now, but pretty similar. You got a bunch of kids in a room and they study, and then they go outside and they do some exercise, and then they come back in and they study and they go outside and they do some exercise. Or they stay in the room and do exercises. If you look on Library of Congress and type in the video search, you can find children doing club work in classrooms in Kansas City in the early 1900s. And it looks really cool. Like, it's an amazing little routine that they run through. You see them do snakes and round-offs and reels and the basic heart patterns. Their footwork's present. They're doing like called S-lits, S-L-I-T, where you kind of lean back or lean forward and have one long leg. They're going into lunges, squats. They're doing all the stuff that we're doing now. And these are elementary school children in like 1900s elementary school outfits. So a bunch of Little Lord Fauntleroys and a bunch of little Emily Dickinsons, right? And if nobody gets the Little Lord Fauntleroy reference, that's fine. Do you guys know what I mean by Little Lord Fauntleroy?
Yeah.
Yeah, they got the bib and the hat, right?
Yeah.
Somewhere I know my mom has a picture of me dressed up like Little Lord Fauntleroy. Some embarrassing blackmail material. But yeah, that's basically how it developed, the 5-ring systems. I've got combatives and then like an educational component of it, physical education. There's the corrective exercise, so that covers the medical. And I'm not a medical professional. I don't play one on TV or the internet. I try to keep our peers honest if I can. If I care enough about them to say something, I'll say, hey, that's maybe stepping over the line. Or if I don't care and I think they're dangerous, I'll just tell them they're idiots. Which, again, has gotten me into some troubles. And I feel like that was a really long-winded answer for a short question.
No. That's awesome. That's what
It's really
we're here. We want to hear the details. And that's very cool. And I see you posting workouts like this morning, afternoon for you, but are you training people then online in these systems?
I do. Yeah, I have I've got a small group training going right now for anybody who wants to join in. It's $40 per person per month. We meet a minimum of 2 weeks or 2 times a week. So you have to show up at least 2 times a week. If you don't, I just refund your money and I don't talk to you. It's not that I stop talking to them, but I don't want your money if you're not going to show up.
Right.
But if they're showing up, then basically we go through visual exercises. So stuff to improve your visual acuity and improve the visual skills that you need to play sports, right? But that's pretty much daily life. You need to be able to see the world so that you can navigate, right? More importantly, you need to be able to see where the horizon is and orient on it. So that's balance as well, right? So vision and balance. And then we do some movement. We do a bunch of mobility drills, generally Z Health warm up, and then I'll throw in some flexible steel, like mobility stuff. I might do some FMS correctives. And then we'll take some gymnastics progressions, and based on who's on the call, I will scale the workout for everybody. And I'll show them 2 or 3 variations of an exercise. I'd say, look, we're going to string these 3 exercises together, and we're going to do, a minute of each one for 5 sets. And what that amounts to is roughly 45 minutes of breathing, vision, balance, some mobility work, some strength work, and depending on where we're at in the week, maybe some cardiovascular exercises that require no equipment, you can do in your home, and they're scaled to everyone's ability level.
Sounds
So
really cool.
between, yeah, it is. I think it's really fun because
Yeah.
honestly, right now, the majority of the people in that group are over 60 years old.
I was just going to ask you that.
Yeah, and they're locked in their
Yeah.
houses and they got nothing
Yeah.
to do.
Yeah.
So they're going stir crazy, and as we get older, it gets harder to exercise. And I think it's an imperative to get up and move a little bit every day. But
Do you
beyond
have
that, I do
students?
private trainings. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Do you have students there in Japan that you would meet with regularly, or do you do most of your work online?
Here in Hong Kong, I have 2 students right now. I've got 1 private student and 1 person that shows up for my Kali class. That's all she was interested in, which is awesome because that's a huge, like the Inasano blend is 37 distinct systems of Filipino martial arts, some of which have as many as 20 or 30 systems inside of them. So it's this giant body of knowledge that allows me to tailor something for the person. Irene's a DJ. She's very sharp about rhythm and timing. So it's cool working with her because she understands some of the stuff before I have to explain it. Whereas if you're like, a baseball person and I try to teach you Kali, you may understand some of the body mechanics, but rhythm and timing may be lost, right? Drummers, awesome. Musicians, awesome. Oddly, addicts. This is a weird one. Recovering addicts are amazing martial arts students. They understand mindless repetition. That sounds like a weird thing to say, but they understand the necessity of just getting reps. And it's a much healthier avenue to pursue than some kind of a habit that may be deleterious to your health. But some of my best students over the 20 some odd years that I've been teaching have been recovering addicts and musicians. They're my favorite people to work with, and children, because there's no ego in children, right? They don't have any of the baggage. They have some, but it's just not as heavy. And they typically see it as just being a fun thing to do.
What
But,
about
yeah, so I've got
gamers? People who are really into gaming, like video gaming.
their visual acuity is really sharp. Their hand-eye coordination is really sharp, but their gross motor function is gone. Because they don't move. They sit there. Their thumbs are amazing. And like their ability to recognize change and respond to it is really sharp. Like that, like I say, their visual acuity, their hand-eye coordination, very good. Whole body kind of takes a back seat because they're, and that's the said principle in action, right? That's the specific adaptation to impose demand, or as Dr. Eric Cobb says, always and exactly. We always get good at exactly what we do. So if all of your fitness is done in a linear fashion, this is a weird concept, and it took me a little while to get my head around it, but most of the movements that we see in fitness are very linear by nature. And those types of movements tend to either inhibit or relax the brain. Because it's easy. We don't have to think about it. It's a straight line. There's no threat, right? Circular patterns, complex movement, stimulates brain activity and increases the amount of resources that are devoted to the particular part of the brain associated with whatever the activity is. So we always get good at exactly what we do, and getting reps means more brain real estate is given and more resources are devoted to it. But the body is also like constantly wearing a shirt that says I'm with stupid, because it'll do whatever we ask it to do. So if I want to go out in my backyard and snatch the kettlebell so many times that I lock my sacrum, my body's going to go along with it. I've done that, by the way. I have done so many one-arm kettlebell snatches that I locked my sacrum for 3 days, and that was not the most comfortable experience of my life.
No.
I learned an important lesson that day. I also learned that my ex-wife was a good sport in helping me get off the toilet. When you can't flex at the hips, things get weird. So don't do that. That's a bad idea.
Is your wife into this, James?
My current wife? No,
Yeah.
she's a surgeon. She's into being being a medical professional. No, I understand that I should, and I said this to her when we first met, I will never be your coach. I will never be her coach. Hire someone. Don't ask me. I don't, because if you ask me, I'll give you input, but I'll try to stay as far away from it as I possibly can, because the relationship that I have with a client is different than the relationship that I'll have with that kind of interpersonal relationship that I have with my wife. And I value the relationship that I have with my wife more than I value her doing kettlebell swings or something. So she'll figure it out on her own. She crewed in high school, so she was a post on her crew team. She did shot put and discus, I think. She's an athlete, right? And she was in theater, mostly theater production, so stage tech, right? Building sets and taking them down, swapping them out. Really into fiber arts, and my wife's pretty cool. Just so we're all clear, I super love my wife. She's an amazing person. And if you ever look up the list of things that Heinlein had as what you should be able to do to be a functioning member of society, she hits every point.
Wow.
Yeah, except for maybe con a ship. I don't know that she can con a ship, but I'm pretty sure she could figure it out. Like she'd learn fast because she's just that kind of a person. So yeah, no, she doesn't do fitness. She used to practice jiu-jitsu with Gina Franson. Shout out to Gina Franson at X2 Fitness, X-Ray 2 Fitness in Minneapolis. Amazing coach, amazing human being. She practiced jiu-jitsu with her for a couple of years before we left Minneapolis. And then I've shown her how to swing clubs because she thought it was fun. Occasionally we'll like hit the weights and do some deadlifting or something together, but she does her own thing. Yeah, she's an autonomous human being, and I prefer that over other things. Your mileage may vary.
Now you mentioned fiber arts, though. You knit.
Yes, I do. Yeah, she taught me how to knit when we first met. She also spins, and yeah, she's pretty cool. Brews beer.
Cool.
We brewed beer for our wedding.
We need to get her on here too.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Let's book her.
I'll talk to her and see if we can set something up, because she's a vet. So maybe she has some insight into how people can manage the crazy of being inside. Although I'm pretty sure all of our pets right now are super stoked.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Definitely. They're happy.
Yeah. We had to learn dog grooming, though. We had to groom our schnoodle, our schnauzer poodle. It was like, we got to do it. We just got the hair clippers out, and actually he looks cute. So I'm like, well, we might not be paying for a dog groomer anymore.
Are you fans of YouTube? Do you get on YouTube and look up skills?
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I'll spend like 40 hours straight just watching YouTube videos to learn how to do something. And then I'll go completely do it wrong a few times.
Of course.
As you can see, I mean, you can see the plants behind me. Like we've got one of our tomato plants over there. You can't.
Yeah.
It's in the background there. It's over 9 feet tall now. So this is a lot of this came from just YouTube. Look up a plant, see how it grows, and then provide those conditions to the plant, and off it goes.
Yeah.
There's a lot
I
of
think
great
it's the
stuff
same
on
with,
there.
yeah, I think it's the same with fitness. There's
Mhm.
no reason why people can't access online material through YouTube or however it's going to be, and as long as it's not dangerous or stupid on its face, go crazy.
Mhm.
Like, do push-ups, do sit-ups, do jumping jacks, do I don't know, whatever looks entertaining. It's got to be fun,
Yeah.
and it's got to keep you interested enough that you want to keep doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's to fiber arts. Like, knitting is interesting to me. It's very interesting.
Mhm.
It's I'm a process knitter, meaning the process of knitting is more important to me than the product itself.
Mhm. That makes
So
sense.
I'll knit a hat just to practice a pattern, and then I'll give the hat to somebody. And at the end of the day, somebody has an awesome hat to wear, hopefully. And I learned how to do something, right? But it's also a cognitive task that keeps the brain healthy. And if you've interacted with me at all, I don't know if I mentioned this at the clinic with John and Kelly, but I've had some pretty significant cranial trauma. I've had 14 major cranial injuries over my lifetime that have included having my skull fractured at least 7 times. I've
Wow.
had, I don't know how many concussions, and been hit in the head a lot. Some were questionable decisions. Some were just like, weird social problems. Um, and some were just training accidents,
Mhm.
stuff that I didn't have any control over, right? I think my first head injury was when I was 3 years old, and I fell off of a slide and hit my head on a rock. And then it
Jeez.
was just off from there. I really like smacking my head on things. So the knitting is part of my cognitive rehabilitation. It keeps me from losing some skills and the brain power that it takes to knit and maintain a pattern and remember it. Maybe doing lace in the dark with black while you watch a movie. Don't ever do that. It's a bad idea. But if you can, you are an amazing knitter. If you can knit lace, follow a pattern in a movie theater with black yarn, you don't need any help. You're good. But it actually increases the connectivity of the brain from hemisphere to hemisphere because you're doing different things on both sides and at the same time. And then the kind of spatial relationships that you have to pay attention to, the geometry of it, all of that stuff plays into it, keeps me from losing the cognitive function that I have. And I notice when I don't do the things that I'm supposed to do. If I don't do my eye tracking exercises and balance work and play, swing some clubs, do some physical exercise every day, if I don't challenge myself, play guitar, play harmonica, learn a new task, like right now I'm trying to learn Cantonese, it is not easy. It's a tonal language and there's 6 tones. So it could be a little different, right? The difference between ma and ma is like you called somebody's mother mom or a horse, and that can be socially challenging. It might limit your abilities. I'm not good at it by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm trying, and it keeps my brain going, and it keeps me from slurring my words or forgetting things or starting to have trouble regulating my emotional output. All of those things come along with traumatic brain injury. So back to the idea of the 5 Ranks Fitness, the medical portion, the rehabilitation, right? Rehab, prehab. Not a doctor, don't play one, but I do things that are consistent with the ideas put forth in those systems. And by incorporating them into the general fitness kind of gestalt that I teach people, I think it gives people a better result. Sometimes it's boring. And it's not popular all the time, but the people that have worked with me typically work with me for multiple years. I've got one client in Minneapolis that's been working with me since July of 2009, at least 2 times a week. And she's in her 60s. So saw her last night. She did 100 swings with a 12-kilo bell. We did some floor work for gymnastics, and then we had a little short talk, and off she went. And she's been doing that, similar workouts, changing a little bit as she's gotten older and as her needs and abilities have changed. But twice a week for over 10 years, that's a good record.
Yeah, says a lot.
Very good.
That's a solid, you know. I don't think I could ask. I could ask more from people, but I don't think that it's no mean feat. It's a really good thing that she's been doing that for that long at that rate, and it shows up in her daily life. She can get up on her roof and get the snow off. She can carry the 40-pound bags of salt from Home Depot to the through the parking lot to her car and then into her house. She pulls her docks in and puts them out every year. She rakes her the lakeside. You got to go out and maintain the lakes in Minnesota. So if you have lakeshore property, you have to go down and kind of take care of the milfoil and the weeds and stuff. And she's just an awesome person. People that are online with me now in that small group, a couple of them were clients that I picked up in Tacoma that were just 2 or 3 times a week for 3 years. And really cool people. One's a pediatric or former, not pediatric, former kind of nurse was she? She was a nurse practitioner, but I can't remember what her specialty was. But she was really sharp. And the other guy, long line fisherman and logger, ran a lumber company. And you know, just random people all over. But that ability to help them improve their brain function, improve the way their bodies function, keep them healthy, keep them happy, keep them moving well, pain-free, able to do the things that they want to do. That's the most important thing in my life. That's what I do this for. That's literally what gets me up in the morning and what I think about all day long, and then probably dream about sometimes.
Do you think that age range that you have in your clients, that it's almost like they realize the value in that more than, say, someone in their 30s? Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Once you hit 40 years old, gravity is a cruel mistress. It affects us all equally. Everything gets longer and thinner and closer to the ground. And like, that's just a reality. And depending on how well we maintain things, it could change drastically. I've known 20-year-olds that couldn't touch their toes for the life of them. For a little while, I worked with a company called Corrective Exercise Specialists, now known as VINNA, VINNA Fitness, in Minneapolis. And they gave me my first job as a trainer in a club. I had trained people privately and I ran my own thing, but Jason had a really special thing going there. And Jason Green was the chief cook and bottle washer there. He was also on staff for the functional movement systems as an instructor for the FMS courses. So hosted at least 2 or 3 a year where we would do FMS 1 and 2 in the facility. And we worked really closely with the Mayo Clinic. We worked closely with a lot of physicians in the area. We would go out and do screenings for high schools, for their track teams or the baseball teams, football teams, whatever. Anything we could do just to get reps of screening people. And then that information was collated and sent back to headquarters, where I hope they did something good with it. And then probably 3 to 5 times a day, I would put somebody through a screen, an FMS screen. And that was for a corporate wellness thing that one of the car dealerships had set up. So if you wanted a job with Fury Motors, you had to pass the FMS. And it was set up so that you could tell, okay, you're going to be in this position in the company. What are the physical requirements of that position? can you meet them before we hire you so that you don't become a liability once you're on board? And if not, then we would offer a corrective exercise program to them to help them meet those conditions so they could get that job. And Fury was a really good job. Like if you worked in that kind of environment, if you were an auto tech or a salesperson or a driver, anything to do with their company, you had to pass the FMS for your job, and then they'd hire you. But once you were in, you got really good benefits, really good pay, super good company. The owners and their main sales staff worked out with us. Their dads worked out with us. So this is a multi-generational thing. And the coolest thing was being able to get those reps, seeing different body types, different ages, different physical adaptations to whatever had happened to those people in their lives, or whatever they'd done to themselves or had done to them, whether it was metabolic or physiological, like, you know, couldn't touch their toes because they were too tight, or they were diabetic and they had peripheral neuropathy and now that leg doesn't work super well. It's not good signaling coming up from the feet, so your balance sucks.
Right.
Whatever it is, right? And in that time period of working there, I saw a lot of people come through, and I recognized that there were themes that would play out almost every time. And if you hit those high points, you're pretty good. And the high points are basically get up, do some kind of, for me, vision and balance work, because that's the hierarchy of the brain, but do some kind of mobility, do a basic strength exercise, add in some cardiovascular exercise at the end, and then do a cool down with some more mobility and go on about your day. And if you target things, you'll get more out of it. But you could do a general program and get all of those things covered. Systems like functional movement screen, or I don't know, who else is doing screens like that? What is it? Not NASM.
ACE
Somebody
has a
else kind of.
screen.
ACE, that's it, ACE.
ACE has a
They use the
screen.
overhead squat, leg lift, and I can't remember what their third component is.
I've
I
got
think
my
they
book
have a
here somewhere.
3-part. Isn't it a 3-part screen?
I believe so. Yeah, it's been a while since I've gone through the course, and I've done the FMS course since. But yeah, they're very similar. I mean, they touch on the same thing, just a few little different exercises.
Sure.
But
Have you guys noticed this? The top 2% agree about 98%.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. It's
Oh yeah.
If you got Gray Cook and Dr. Cobb and Charlie Weingroff and Mel Siff and, you know, just Pavel and all the, I can throw out all the names we know, but just anybody, Gary Gray and just name it. If you got them all in a room, they would probably agree with 98% of the information.
Oh yeah.
right.
And that 2%, they may argue about, but they argue about because they want it to improve. They're typically scientists. And this is another reason why I appreciate my wife. She's a scientist. She's a medical professional. There has to be proof. There has to be verified, observable, repeatable proof, or it doesn't work. It's just anecdote. It's interesting, but it's not data. And
Right.
I think it's really unfortunate in our industry that the general public doesn't get access to that idea. They get access to the marketing that says, I'm the best. Only I know what's right.
Yeah.
I'm obviously the best at club swinging.
Obviously.
You know, your snake training workshop you did, I was so frustrated while we were doing it. I was just like, ugh. And the thing is it was like, oh, well, I'm online here and I really just want to quit, but I'm not going to do it. But I stuck with it. And all of a sudden it was just, oh, I'm starting to get them. And
fantastic.
and you were so generous to give us access then to the workshop forever. I mean,
Was it, just curious, were you able to download and watch that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, good.
It's on my Google Drive. It was a big file, so I put it to my Google Drive, but
long as you were able to access it and
yeah.
replay it,
But it
good
was
deal.
one of those things, talk about the brain and the body. It was like, I just couldn't get them while you were showing us. And then
man.
but I got it though. And I like to watch Bill Sorensen, and because he
He's
does
so sharp.
does a lot of the snake, and he was in the workshop. And so he puts a lot of little patterns on Instagram, and it makes it so like, okay, I'm going to try that one today.
He and
you got to try
wife,
the clubs are fun.
Yeah, he and his wife are so sharp. They're really good at communicating information in a manner that is accessible and actionable.
Yeah.
I don't know that I'm good at that. I hope
You're
I am,
good.
but I don't know that I'm like, they're really good at putting stuff. I really appreciate Bill. He, funny story. Bill and I on a Christmas Eve in like 2000, I think it was 2009, got together and did a Viking Warrior conditioning set on Christmas Eve in the rec center where I used to work out of. He showed up with his boombox and a tool chest. It was like a toolbox turned into a speaker. And we put on some loud ass music and just cranked out a bunch of snatches. So Bill's really cool. He's super cool. I'm hoping that he and Steph start actively teaching and making some money from it, because they put up so much stuff they should be compensated. I just like I like Kelly Manzone. I think what she's doing is amazing. She's making the clubs and that kind of call it historical strength training. She's making it accessible and interesting to a group of people that are typically not catered well to, which is women. Like, she's convincing women that it's okay to be strong and also be women, like whatever that means to them. It's not a monolithic thing. I'm a little weird in this, in that I butt heads with some of the fitness world, because I've worked in martial arts teaching self-defense for so long that I've had enough contact with women that have been assaulted and horribly changed that I understand they need something different than the men. And that's why I like Gina Franson, X2 Fitness. Is she's maybe 100 pounds, and she recognizes that not everything is going to work the same way for her that it does for me. And then she tailors the material that she teaches, specifically Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, to the individual she's working with, so that they can make it happen. So they can be safe. And if you're safe, you can have fun. But it's safe first. If I don't feel safe in my environment, safe in my body, safe in my mind, I'm not doing anything. I'm just, stress and anxiety, and it's no fun. And it's also unfortunate in the fitness aspect that typically the communication given to women is either based around marketing or anxiety. And I think that's inappropriate. So I really like what Kelly's doing, because she's like, hey, all you got to do is get up and move and have some fun and play, and you can get super strong and don't worry about the rest of it. Same thing with Molly Galbraith or Nagar Fanuni or Artemis Scantolides or any of the Girls Gone Strong crew. I don't know if you paid attention to them at all.
Yeah, a lot.
But super sharp, right? Some really good coaches in there, and making it accessible in a way that is meaningful and not just organized around somebody else's idea of what the outcome should be. So yeah, I don't know. I kind of forgot what I was saying there. Oh yeah, Steph and Bill. I hope they start getting paid. I hope people are paying attention to Kelly, and also to other people like Artemis. I don't know if you guys know who Artemis Scantolides is.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, super cool, right?
Yeah.
She's just an amazing human. Or Molly Galbraith, super cool human.
Yeah.
All of them kind of, and weird uh, kind of confluence of people. Jen
Mhm.
Sinkler is like the linchpin to all of those people. If you know who Jen Sinkler is,
Yeah.
Yep.
he's been kind of the linchpin for him, right?
Mhm.
And whether that was a factor of her having a job at what was it, whatever the Lifetime Fitness magazine was. Uh, I can't remember what the name of the magazine was, but she was a contributing. She contributed to it in some way. I can't remember what her job was there.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, she's a writer,
Yeah, and
big time
through
writer.
that,
Yeah.
she got to interact with all these cool people and
Mhm.
to promote some really good ideas. And then she was part of the gym in Minneapolis called The Movement,
Mhm.
which was a unique spot because it took fitness and made it more accessible to anybody, where you could walk in and I don't care what you can't do. I'm curious about what you can do and what you
Mhm.
want to do. That's what I want to know about. The can't, I don't, it's who cares?
Yeah.
What can you do?
Yeah.
Do that. And then build on that to keep kind of putting those Legos together until you got a structure that you're happy with. Right? And if you're not, tear it down, put a new one in, do it again.
Yeah.
But it's a
Right.
game, it's game based. And I think maybe the younger coaches and athletes that are coming out now, people in their 20s and 30s, are more familiar with that gamification of
Mhm.
fitness. And I think it's healthier. I think it's much healthier.
Mhm.
Does that
Awesome.
ring true to you guys?
It does me for sure. I think I look back and my background was sports, and then it was like, I guess I'll be a runner all through college. I'm from Coos Bay, Oregon, Steve
Mhm.
Prefontaine's hometown, so running is kind
Oh,
of in our
fun.
blood.
Sure.
But for till I was about 40, I just was beating myself up running, and then I
Mhm.
just couldn't do it anymore. And I took the advice of I had my knees MRI, and they're like, you got healthy, strong knees, but some pretty advanced arthritis for somebody your age. You might think about, you know, doing less running and finding something else. So I sort of morphed into the strength, and lo and behold, enjoyed it so much more because I'm just not really built to run, but I would pound myself because this is
Yep.
what we do. We run in Oregon. Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Amanda,
agree.
was your experience the same, Amanda?
Yeah. I skied for my university. My event was
Oh,
giant
wow.
slalom. And I think back on the way that we trained in the weight room, real bad, very, very bad. And I watch them now.
Sure.
I watch them online now, and they are so much smarter about it. It's just really cool to see what they're doing and how there's very few injuries, like they're on
Not some
top of their
crusty
game.
Vietnam vet yelling at him.
Yes.
Her dad was her
Exactly.
coach.
Yes. Oh.
Well, I think that's a big deal is that, the changes generationally are pretty drastic over the last 20 years.
Yeah.
You've
Yeah.
got, people who grew up with the idea that it's okay not to suffer all the time.
Mhm.
Like maybe
Right.
we should pay attention to our, other
Yeah.
than just the outlook or the outside health. Maybe we should pay attention to our internal dialogues and
Yes.
it's called the biopsychosocial model. Uh, so it's a big thing for me is addressing the biology, the psychology, and the sociology. So what are your personal relationships like? What's your internal environment like? What's your brain like? How are you doing there?
Mhm.
And then biology, okay, how does it move? How does it work? Are you strong? Are you healthy? Can you access your body in ways you need? But I think probably for I'm 47 this year, I think. 2020. Yeah, that sounds right. Uh, I was born on the last day of December in 1973. So it could be
Okay.
74, but it's not by
Yeah.
24 hours, literally.
Right.
12:01 a.m. So, like, I don't know what your age groups are, and you don't have to say, but I grew up with that. Vietnam vets were my
Mhm.
coaches,
Yeah.
old, crusty, 40-year-old crazy psycho wrestling coach, right?
Yep.
And that was an environment that maybe wasn't the most healthy thing. I had
Yep.
I had destroyed my knees before I even got to boot camp at 17. I already had 2 spinal injuries and a bunch of concussions.
Yeah.
So awesome.
Yeah. I tell people
Uh,
I'm made out of recycled parts. Just the stuff that happened over the years is like, I don't feel stuff sometimes because it's just, there's so much artificial material inside parts of my body that I'm like, oh yeah, I can do that. I can do that all day long because I can't feel it at all. You know?
It's awesome. I suppose that's
So
good and bad.
I'm actually lucky. I've never had any significant injuries
You are
other
lucky.
than just kind of wear and tear. But yeah, I'm
Good show. Well done. Have you found that, did you go back to running? Have you ever gone back to running, or did you just kind of?
no, I've tried, and I don't know. I seem to have developed plantar fasciitis with just hiking and maybe wearing the wrong shoes. So I'm been really trying to get that resolved. I don't stay off my feet at all. I refuse, but but I do a lot of hiking, walking. I get lots of cardiovascular exercise with kettlebells and rowing machine. I got really into rowing this last winter,
Awesome.
and I loved
Have you-
it. And
Have you checked out Kenneth J's stuff on that?
Yeah. I had the cardio
Yeah.
code.
Awesome.
It's lost on a hard drive somewhere. I gotta find it. But yeah, and I think that the rowing is now that the weather's getting a little better though. I'm trying to get outside more.
Sure.
In fact, we just are getting some sand bikes we can ride out in the dunes here. So,
Oh wow.
So cool.
hey
That'll be
James,
fun.
it's coming up on 7, and both Amanda and I have to get to our jobs.
Yeah. No worries. No
This
worries.
has been so fun though. This has been
But
great.
look, let's do this,
I super
Amy.
appreciate you guys having me on. I hope I was
Yeah.
at least entertaining.
Oh, you're great. Awesome.
So James, look, real quick before we go, I want to ask you 10
Oh yeah, 10
rapid
questions.
fire questions. Just
Okay.
first thing that comes to your mind, okay? You ready? Is he there?
He's there.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Favorite meal?
Oh man, that's rough. That's so hard to say.
What just came into your head?
I'm in Hong Kong. I've got like 21 Michelin-starred restaurants within a mile of me,
Oh.
Jeez.
and it's like $5 for a meal. So, I got to go with kimchi fried rice.
Okay. Favorite
The
color?
spam. Favorite color, blue.
Last book you read?
What was the last book I read? I'm in the middle of Red Dragon. I'm also in the middle of Monster Hunters International, the second compendium book they have. I can't even remember what it's called. What was the last one I finished, though? I think the last book that I finished was Left of Bang. No, the last book I finished was, I just reread Motivational Interviewing in Healthcare.
Okay.
So that's the last book I finished.
All right. Most memorable concert?
Black Flag, Circle Jerks, Angry Samoans, and Mau Maus.
That's
Cool.
awesome.
That's awesome.
First concert.
What is something that people get wrong about you?
I don't know. I couldn't answer that. I'm sure there's misconceptions about me. Maybe people think I'm nicer than I am, or they think I'm meaner than people probably think I'm meaner than I actually am. It's very blunt.
When was the last time you had a hysterical laugh? Just now.
What was it? There was something that I saw on the internet that I could not stop laughing for a good 10 minutes straight. It was a meme. Oh God, now I can't even remember it, but it was just hilarious. Ah, oh,
It's
it's
all
gonna
right.
kill me because it was so good. But any Mel Brooks movie will do it, guaranteed.
Oh yeah. Favorite animal?
Favorite animal? My dog.
We saw your dog. Beautiful.
Right? He's pretty awesome.
He's beautiful. Something you procrastinate.
Oy vey. Everything. I'll put off putting off things to do something else.
Right. What's the last movie you watched?
What did we just watch? We just finished Birds of Prey and the something Emancipation of Harley Quinn,
Okay.
which
All
is
right.
super good. It's super good. It was a really
I'm gonna
fun
write that
movie.
down.
Yeah,
All
it's
right.
really fun movie.
All right. And last one. What's your favorite vacation place?
Favorite vacation place? Oh. Eh. John Engham's cabins.
Oh, cool.
That's
Absolutely.
awesome.
The lake that John lives on is he's got little cabins around. It used to be a resort, and he's got these little tiny cabins that are like big enough for a double bed and a dresser. And
Nice.
every year he hosts a thing where people come in and teach some skills, and then you hang out at John's place at night, and Michelle cooks, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good stuff.
Sounds great.
Yeah. Secret's out, John Ingham.
That's right.
Well,
By
thank you,
invite only, though.
James.
So, oh, thank you so much for having me. Like I said, I
Yeah.
hope I was at least entertaining.
You're
You were.
awesome.
This was
I feel like
fun.
I
This was
This
great.
was
talked too much,
great.
and I'm sorry.
I will send you, I will put this up on YouTube. It'll probably be tomorrow. I'm running off to work here, and it'll be up, and you free to do. And then I'll have the podcast up too on Spotify and
Awesome.
iTunes. So yeah.
Super fun.
Cool.
Wildly encourage you to get Mike T. Nelson on. He is
Yeah,
a
we'll look for
very
him,
cool
yeah.
guy. A little science heavy, but that doesn't bother me in the least. So hopefully it doesn't bother your other listeners. Awesome.
No.
You guys have a great
Cool,
night,
James.
great day.
Thank you.
Have fun, don't break, move towards better every day. Don't quit.
All right.
Thanks, James.
Have a
Take
great
care.
one.
All right, cheers.
Bye-bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.